Oh, we are live. Okay. Welcome. Okay, we had some little problems here with the technology, but it worked. I hope so. Yeah, welcome to my little studio in Malta. My name is Babicz, and I'm an electronic musician, doing music since 30 years now. I started 1990, and it was crazy all the years, and I can explain a little bit how I started. At that time I was at high school, and this techno music came up, and all my friends hated it. My parents hated it, and I was the only person that loved this crazy sound. And then I was able to somehow have a release, my first release, without knowing what I was doing, but it happened, and I had fun. And then a little bit later, I got invited to have my first live show. This was a little bit special as well, because I got a phone call from a promoter in Cologne, where I am from, that they will need somebody who can play live tonight. And he told me that he really likes my record. I think I did 1 or 2 records at that time. And if I want to play live, and I said yes. But at that time I had a little problem, and I told him, hey, I would love to play at your place, but I have a small problem. I don't have any equipment. He said, don't worry, just come and we will get you something. And it was my first show, so that I came there, had no idea what to do, but I thought, okay, let's try. So they gave me a drum machine, a synthesizer, I think a delay pedal, and a mixer, and maybe 2 synthesizers. I don't really remember. I had 2 hours time to understand the machines, and I was playing. That's it. Back then, there were this music was so underground that the locations were old places with almost no light. There was like a big strobo, a big fog machine, and a very loud PA, and that's it. That's how techno started, and I had this was a life-changing moment for me to play there, and I understood that this is something I want to do in my life. So so I told my parents, hey, I will I will finish high school, but I want to be an artist. My parents were not amused, really not amused at all. But I had to do it, and then yeah, I was able like to get 18, and the first thing I wanted to do was move out of home. So um, the live shows started, and I got more releases and more. So I had like my first income just from music, and I got a little flat, and I was able to like slowly buy little bit of equipment, like step by step, get things used, like old stuff that was not too expensive, and slowly build up the, this musician life. And back then, my artist name was, I called myself Rob Acid. And what does it mean? It means that I really fall in love with the sound of. Let me show you before. Let me get something. Yep. Okay, my little friend, this machine here, this was my main instrument at that time, you see. Wow, what crazy times. Rock and roll, really rock and roll. We had me and this machine had a very close relationship. Yeah. So yeah, a little bit into time, like slowly I was able to like play in my city in Cologne, and then I got like a show in Frankfurt, and then my first show in Berlin, and it was really picking up, and I was doing music like crazy all the time. And then I got like first shows in Holland. I was playing in Poland and Switzerland and Austria, and yeah, the music was starting to pick up, and then the first big parties came up, so they were called Raves, and the music started to change, and everything got bigger and bigger out of this little dark clubs, just to, like I said, a fog machine and a strobo light, and now they started to grow. The Love Parade started to grow, and this electronic music, yeah, it started to get alive. And I still remember the time when I had some people that I knew, they were musicians at that time, and they had bands and other were doing other music, and all of them were really not taking this electronic music serious. All of them were laughing and telling me, "You are not a musician, forget it. This is bullshit with you and your machines." But really, I didn't care so much. I had fun with especially this boy and yeah, was a good time. It's still a good time actually. So yeah, the music were growing, and the first time when I think it was like 94 or 95, I got invitation to play in the US. I think I had a show in Chicago and Detroit, and I was super proud because at that time, like, uh, these places were the origin of um, techno and acid music. Um, yeah, was really really cool to go there, and then it started to grow more and more, and um, things. The, that's something also something very interesting is that this how this music evolved actually from, like, in the beginning there were only just one main style. It was this techno, and then slowly you had different genres coming up. So slowly DJs were playing a bit more melodic, and then a new style of like trance came up, and then there was music. I mean, house music was before techno anyway, but still alive, and other genres like drum and bass came up, and I was quite known for this acid techno thing. So be- before this techno, there was this end of the 80s acid house music, and I took basically the sound of this acid house and injected it into the harder techno music. So a little bit forward, a few years, I was doing music, releasing a lot, and then I had an interesting, I think, an interesting key moment um, where I was, uh, yeah, at the, like when I didn't play myself, or yeah, when I was not having a gig myself, I was still going out and always having some vinyl records with me with new music that I released. And then one day I was going to a club where a friend of mine was playing, and he was like he was um, he was happy that he saw me, and I gave him like my latest record, and he directly, like, he was mixing, and he took my record and put it on the table and was playing the sound. And because the thing is, at that time I had really no idea about all these technical things in mixdown and mastering, and all this were like black magic um, things. I just was doing music, all fader up, everything in red, and that's was the way how I was doing music. So he played the record, and something happened. He was playing a record that was maybe well mixed at that time, and then he was mixing my record into this, and you could, like, the you could feel how everything changed, that when my song came in, and I was really happy because, like, I was happy that I loved every of my songs, but he mixed in my track, and it was like way lower in volume, everything was like smeared and thin sounding, and it was a bit like a moment where I was feeling ashamed because the DJ like mixed another record like after 2 or 3 minutes after my record was running, he mixed another one, and the good sound came back. And at that moment I was swearing to myself, okay, I have to understand what is the difference, some some music is sounding very clear, why a kick drum is really there, why a bass can sound huge, what is happening. So I decided, okay, I have to learn this. I really, really have to learn what's going on. Okay, so I started to get all books that were somehow available, and of the end of the 90s, beginning of 2000, internet was there, and the first forums were going on, and you could like ask people and try to get information around. Was not easy because I remember, I mean, it really changed. At that time, most of the artists, when you were going to an artist and meet somebody and ask him, hey, how did you do this, or how did you manage this and this? They were telling you, oh, I will not I will not explain this for you. It's my secret. and, and it was a strange time where you had many friends, but the people were not telling you what they were doing. And it's good that it's really changed today. Like you can find every information you need online, and people are way more open-minded than back then. Okay, a little bit forward. Around 2000, my daughter was born, and things changed in my life a little bit. And somehow I thought, okay, this whole hard techno rock acid thing is not really, like I'm not feeling it anymore. I want to change something. So I decided that I want to release music only under my real name. So this whole rock acid thing, I thought, okay, maybe it's time to stop this and start again, like fresh, as a new artist, just under my real name. And somehow this was one of the best decisions I ever made, besides doing music anyway. When I started doing this whole reset of music, I was very afraid to change my style, because I was getting my income out of the music that the people knew from me, and to change your whole style as an artist is somehow dangerous. But it worked out for me. I started doing this kind of, I don't know how to describe this music. Is more of melodic, slower music that is telling stories. I was searching for myself at that time. Yes, and it totally exploded. It was such a crazy time. I had some records that really pushed my career somehow. I had some releases on, at that time, very known labels, Compact Records from Cologne, and also one of my quite known tracks on a label in Hamburg came out. The track was called Dark Flower, with a great remix by Joris Voorn from Holland. And this was really a big push. And then a few years later, I thought I will start my own label. So I started to create Babicz style, and there I had some records. One of, like, the first one was called Remote Kiss. That was really working well, and I got bookings all around the world, and I started to travel and play in many places. And it was also a big adventure. And during that time, like when everything came up, more and more people started to ask me, how do you do this, and like technically, and how you do this, and I was always answering everything I knew. And then they asked, maybe you can have a look on my track, and maybe you can improve this or make a mastering or something. And I said, okay, let me try something, and I of course I want to help you. And yeah, from this, slowly more and more people came to me, and then there was a point where so many people asked me if I can do something for them, where I thought, okay, maybe they can pay me a little bit of money, because it takes quite a big part of my day. Yeah, and then I became a mastering engineer as well, and yeah, I was doing my own music. I was taking care of other people's music, and then I also were doing a lot of sound design for companies like Native Instruments. You can find, I think, still a lot of presets and sample packs from me. Ooh, yeah, so it was going on for some time. Okay, I mean that was a bit of my history. 2 years, 10 years later, we are here in a kind of lockdown situation, where all the gigs were gone, and we don't know how it will go on, but I'm working at the studio every day. I love it, and I will work on in this. If okay, let's do it this way. If you have any question for me, I'm seeing the stream right now. So if you want to ask me something, I'm here. Please write it down in the chat, and at least here on YouTube I can see what's going on, and I can answer something. If not, we can go on. Maybe I give you a few, if you are a musician. I can give you a few tips. Something that helped me quite a lot to get better. And one of the tips would be when you doing your mix down and your track and you are almost ready, try and you want to understand if everything is well balanced and all the elements are like in a good way. Try to listen to your track in the lowest possible volume, like really, really low, and then the what you are hearing, if your mix down is really well balanced, you will able to hear all the elements of the song in a very low volume. And if something is really sticking up or something is missing, you know that you have to balance things up. This way you are able to understand like the balance of the mix, and your room is not changing the sound, because I mean every room have a sound, and it's really working on your decisions. Okay, I see first questions coming in. Which DAW I'm using? I am on a Logic since version 2.0, when I changed from Atari ST Cubase to the first Mac Apple computer. I bought Logic, and since then I am still using Logic. I use Ableton for my live sets these days, so I take some instruments with me, but mainly Ableton as a platform. And right now I'm also investigating Bitwig for myself, as it seems to be a very interesting software. Oh, I see a question that maybe my voice is not in sync with the video. Sorry, I cannot do anything about this. Sorry. Technology. Yeah, Logic 4 was cool. I mean, every big step, and I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward for maybe the next Logic update. But like I said, at the moment when I am trying out this Bitwig, there are so many very creative ideas in this. Wow. Really, wow. What else? I am using, as you maybe see on the screen, a bit of modular equipment these days, as this is like, I don't know, I mean, it's like you have total freedom in creating sounds with this, no real rules. That makes fun. I like this. Yeah, and as you maybe know, or you can see, I do like Antelope as my converter. Thank you, Antelope, for this cool gear. I really, it works quite well for me. I have 32 in and out, and it's all connected in the patch bay, and I can use all this gear here. Next question. Which interface are you using live? Best interface. I think for my live show, I bought it's a hi-fi, like high-end two channel DAC that I got for the live shows, because I wanted like the best possible audio output only. So I'm not working with any ins. And I connect all the other instruments that I'm taking with me directly to the mixer, so it's not going through the computer. Hello Zoltan. What could be the learning steps from thin to thick sound? I you know what's interesting? My sound got bigger, or like more clear and 3D, when I understood one very important rule, and that is less is more. And what do I mean with this is use less instruments at the same time. Then the instruments that you are using, put them in the right frequency range. So I'm cutting the low end on the high end and put them on the right place. And so the kick have its place, the bass have its place. And if they are colliding, I make sure that they are not overlapping too much. And all the other instruments have their own place. And then if you really take things away, you have more rooms for what's left. And this is a way how sound gets bigger. It's really like that. And when I started, it was always this: if you don't hear anything, increase the signal and get louder and louder and louder. And now I'm doing the opposite, and I'm quite happy with the results I'm getting. But even after 30 years of doing music, I would consider myself still as an advanced beginner. And I have to learn a lot, for sure, still. And I want to learn more. Okay, I see some more questions. What would be the first step you take when you're approaching mixing a track? Do you look getting the right balance between elements or resonances? A typical concept I'm speaking of electronic music mostly. I mean, that's the area where I'm working. I would say bottom up. That means when I'm mixing, first make sure the kick and the bass line, as this is the fundamental area of the track, is right. And when you get both elements like in a good balance, then you start adding stuff up. Like you make sure you put things up, and then if your track, like all the important elements are in place, then you are able to put I call them decoration elements around the track. So you're building up from the low bass, you go slowly up, add all the stuff, and then you go around. And of course, really make sure that resonances are taking out. And there are some cool plugins these days. I mean, like really amazing tools. Smooth is one of them, where amazing how it can help you on a mixdown. Yeah. Any other questions? Um, yeah, the thing is, okay, one more tip I have for you to understand if your track is well mixed, and this I call this the toilet test. So what is the toilet test? The toilet test is you play your track loud in your studio, but you are going to another room, or you go to the toilet, sit down, and listen to your track from far away. This way you are changing the perspective, and this is something very interesting and important. So when you sit down from far away and you listen to your track, all the details, all the automation, all these little tricks and super effects, you can't hear them anymore. You just hear the basic structure of the track. And if the track is still interesting from far away without all your super automation, then you have done something right. So you can come back and finish the track. And something, maybe a little tip from me is I work quite fast. That means that I would say 95% of all the tracks that I have done made in one day. I try to finish the whole song usually in one day, and then I have a strict rule to myself. That is when I finish the track, and because I'm a mastering engineer, I even master my track as well. I mean, you can send it to somebody who will do this for you, but if you feel you know what you are doing or you have enough experience, do it yourself. Of course, I learned everything myself. So yeah, when the track is finished, and then I do the toilet test, or maybe I will if it's a dance track, I dance a little bit, close my eyes, try to feel the music. But when I have the feeling that the track is like really missing something, or it's like not special enough, I will delete the whole project. Everything I was working on, I delete. And switch off the studio and go. This way I don't have any unfinished songs on my hard drive, so nothing that is waiting to be finished. And when I start again with zero, it's like a good feeling, really. Don't save everything. Not every idea you had, not everything you worked all day long was really perfect. And I know I do a lot of mistakes, and not everything is good. You can delete it. Possible. Okay, let me see. Yes, I use Logic as my mastering platform, but I use a combination of analog gear, of analog EQs, analog compression, and plugins for mastering. But yeah, it goes out of Logic into the gear and back to Logic. And a quite important thing is that I'm still using real tape. So I have a tape machine. It's there. It's a Studer A80 where I'm recording every track. Mm. And why I'm using this? Because I think it's still one of the best ways to have natural compression, because this tape is very or tape in general is kind of forgiving, mm, and it's helping me to tame the transients and get this kind of fat sound that I really love. Okay, let me see. Okay, there's a question. If I How do I work with mono stereo? And here's a small story as well. Why mono is still important for our music? Yeah. As I am as a touring artist, I see and hear a lot of sound systems, and I can tell you many, when let's say minimum 60% of sound systems in clubs are run in mono. You see a lot of speakers in the club, but most of the time the engineer of the club have problems to get a really good stereo sound, so it's better they just what they think, it's better to run the system in mono, so you don't have like latencies and things and problems with the stereo field and phase. But, and here's the problem, if your mix down, if your music is way too stereo or have phase problems, and your track get played in one of these clubs where everything is mono, your track is like missing many parts and is sounding maybe dull, maybe thin. So that's a reason why it's always important. And I can tell you, I have, no, you don't see this, I have a monitor controller with a mono button, and I always check while I'm working, always press this button and see what's happening with the stereo signal. So I'm trying to get a mono mix as good as possible, but I love stereo. Actually, I myself, I love the concept of having 3D mix downs, where when everything is like good mixed in, like for my music, I can only speak for my own music, so I don't know your music, but I like when I'm listening to music to go inside a track, and when everything is like well mixed, you are able to look around and see the sounds, how they come around you. This is something I really love. So stereo is very important. I'm quite sad that the whole multi-channel sound systems never really picked up. I would love to make surround Babicz style, or even as many channels as possible. Let's see how it will go on. Okay, I see there are some more questions coming up. What do you think is the best analog gear to get the best out of your synths? I mean, which one would you buy after all those years of experience if you would be your first piece? As a synthesizer? I think the most important analog equipment in a studio is not a synthesizer, it's actually your room and your speaker, and then of course the sound, your sound card as well. If you get room treatment, and this is crazy, I mean, this is like, if you have your room in a good shape and things working well, your music will change to something way better than you never thought before. And as well, having good speaker is very important, or good headphones. I mean, it's possible to mix on good headphones as well, but it's important that you really hear what's going on inside the music. And there's a picture I when I'm explaining why monitoring is so important. Imagine you get a brand new Ferrari sports car, really perfect red, super fast, but you don't have real windows in your car. You just have a little hole, and through this little hole you have to see, or you have to look on the street, and you want to drive a race and you want to win. So this is somehow the situation when you have, like, I mean, these days with DAW is like amazing what you can do. But when you're not hearing what you are doing, it makes a problem to win the race. But okay, if you want to buy your first synthesizer, this is difficult because it depends on your taste. But for me, that's difficult. I think I would try to work as long as possible in the digital world and really make the step to analog when you think it can really help you or change the way you do music. For me, I do love all these tools because I can touch them and the workflow is different. But you don't really need all this stuff to make amazing music. I have so many clients with just a laptop and they are really amazing. I use all this because I touch and it makes fun. And don't, okay, something that is quite important, if you get a synthesizer, try to think as well about a channel strip maybe, or at least a good microphone preamp with a DI input. This makes sure that the analog synth or digital synth that you are having will sound much better than just connecting the output to your sound card. Really, having a microphone preamp between will make sure that your synths will have a character straight from the beginning. It's something I hope can help you. Yeah, do we have any other questions coming up? Something I can talk about? Ah, I don't know if you know this one. This is interesting new toy I got. It's called Theory Board, and it's an alternative keyboard that is very interesting and helping you to find new musical ideas. Have a look, Theory Board. It's great. Um, yeah, I don't know. Any questions or something um, I can speak of? I don't know. So, let's see. Something is coming up. Oh, ah, okay. um, I almost forgot this. I have a project going on where I am helping young artists, or not so young artists anymore, with all my knowledge, with everything I know, on a constant level and personal level. So if you want to learn a little bit more on how I do music and how I work and everything, and how I'm able to help you, try have a look on Babicz mastermind.com. That's something. Okay, another question. Other mastering tips you can share with us? Let me think. Mastering. I Many people ask me, how do you get your music sounding so loud, but at the same time not so squashed? Okay, the answer is quite it's easy actually. I'm not using limiter at most of the time. I do like to clip my converter. Here, my converter, this Antelope converter, sounds quite amazing, and is very, very forgiving if you go into red. So it's forbidden to go in red, but actually this way, if you overdrive your converter, you can do this to a certain point where you don't hear any distortion. Of course, if you hear distortion, you are already too far. But a good converter will not distort so fast. And this way I get my loudness. And these days you have really amazing plugins emulating this clipping technique. So you even don't need to use your converter anymore for this kind of technique. Yeah, that's how I get my music loud. And technically, most of the time my music is lower in volume than most of the people, but because I care about texture and when you make your mix down and the arrangement balanced, your music will sound bigger than music that is really squashed and full of elements. Don't put too many things into your mix, and it will sound huge. Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Oh, we will, maybe close this little little stream for today. Okay, so if nothing is coming, I say very, very, very thank you to all the people who were watching and following my blah 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 blah. And I thank Antelope Audio for this possibility to stream. And thanks Antelope for your cool products. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope to see you somewhere else in these crazy times. I'm doing maybe one live show per month from the studio, so watch my Facebook channel or YouTube, and maybe I will also do some tips and tricks videos for free here. I don't know, we will see. So thank you very much, and big greetings to my old friend Kai Tresset, who was watching as well. Okay, one last question from I think Jakob. Can you describe what is your process or routine to create new sounds? Last question. The one thing is I like to take a synth, and usually when I take an analog synth or something here out of the studio, I play around and I am recording, I'm playing all the elements only with my hand, no MIDI, just with my hand, and I'm recording audio into the computer. And then I have this kind of material I can work with. It's like my basic sound material. So that's a typical way how I get organic kind of sounds, because I play them with my hands and maybe sometimes pushing the wrong buttons, and these happy accidents make the difference. So thank you very much, wish you all the best, and bye bye.